The second continent whose art we'll look at is Australia. It's the smallest of the 7 continents, and it's really a very, very large island. Before we continue, we review the map of the continents and what we know about them, which one's ours, the other name for Antarctica, where we've gone before. Which continent made this art? How do they know? Let's go back to Australia. Our additional standards for this lesson are describe and make patterns, plan and use variations in line to communicate ideas and feelings, and identify and describe seascapes and landscapes. The Common Core listening and speaking standards are participate in collaborative conversations, ask and answer questions about key details and information presented orally, and to gather more information or clarify what's been said. Our new vocabulary is Aboriginal, Dreamtime, Platypus, Dingo, Oil Pastel, Landscape, Seascape, and Portrait. Australian cities look pretty much like other cities around the world. About 250 years ago, people from England came to Australia, so their official language is English, just like ours. At this point, I asked them what they know about Australia. A few of them always know about the kangaroos, so we talk some about the animals of Australia at this point. These men come from the original people of Australia who lived there for thousands of years. Original means first, so we call them the Aboriginal people. See the body art on them, where they have the white dots and the lines and circles? That has to do with their religion. And all of those symbols have to do with stories of the dream time, which explains how the world was created. They tell those stories through dance and song and art because there is no writing in their language. Many of the Aboriginal people who live in the city perform for the tourists for a living. Here's a girl taking a break. This girl's working as a model. Unlike the African people, the Aboriginal people don't wear jewelry. I liked this man's red and white stripes. I'd like to paint my face with red and white stripes. Aboriginal artists often sit together to paint and sing the stories of the paintings. Many of the stories are forbidden to be told to outsiders, so we'll never know what the stories are, but we can enjoy the art. Outside of the city and the country, that area is called the bush, just like in Africa. On the island of Australia, the cities are all right next to the ocean, and then you go out to the country, and then after the country, toward the middle, is the outback. It's really dry there, and very few plants grow. It's very hard to live, so very, very few people live in the outback, but a few Aboriginal people still do. This would be a typical house of an Aboriginal person because it's so hot they don't need walls. On this image, we talk about how the spout of the whale divides night and day, and how cool is that sun. And then at the bottom, we see the two islands of animals, and the ones with the wavy lines, like water, are the water animals, and then the other ones are the land animals of Australia. This is the art of Danny Eastwood, and we see the kangaroos, and we see that fabulous sunshine in the background, and then we see Uluru, which is sacred to the Aboriginal people. It's this amazingly huge mountain-sized rock that changes colors, especially at dawn and sunset. It becomes red. Here's a picture of hunters bagging a kangaroo, and those U-shaped symbols are what Aboriginals use to represent people. What's happening in this Australian landscape? So we discuss the fire, and then we discuss the animals at the bottom of the page, and we talk about how important the animals are to the Aboriginal people. We talk about the animals that we only find in Australia, like this platypus. The platypus is the only mammal on Earth who lays eggs, and you can see here that he's long, sharp claws to dig his burrow. But then he has a bill like a duck so he can get his food in the water. And he has webbed feet like a duck between his claws, too. What the children identified as a porcupine in the landscape was actually an echidna, Australia's most common mammal. They're also known as spiny anteaters, and they eat ants, and they roll themselves in a ball to protect themselves. Here's an artist working on bark, which is the traditional medium for Aboriginal art, and she's making animals with patterns in them and repeating the animal patterns themselves. Now it's our turn to make the art. Here's a sample of the echidna, Aboriginal style, and you'll see all the dots and lots of repeated patterns. And here's the kangaroo. Here's my sample of the platypus swimming. He needs the lap band. Here's the fish. And here's the koala. I only show them the 5 samples. I used to show this snake, but they just always make it too small and you can't fit any pattern into it. And I demonstrate how to draw each one because they choose which one they want to draw. I pass out black felt tip pens, so as soon as the children finish drawing their animal in pencil, they can trace it in black felt tip pen. And I demonstrate each animal according to who wants what. And for the kangaroo, we make a potato, we make a circle, connect it with curved lines, give him a muzzle, an eye, a nose, a mouth, some ears, some front paws, big powerful back legs with long feet for jumping, and a muscular tail to rock back on when he kicks. Next, I demonstrate making the patterns. So we make 2 lines, and then go some space, and maybe make 3 lines. And then make any kind of pattern they want in between. They can make it up themselves. In fact, that's best. You can make some things around his eye. Some more lines, and maybe this time we'll make a wavy line pattern, put some dots in, and I continue making the pattern, and they pretty much stop at some point watching me and go ahead and start their own. Once the pattern's made, we talk about how to make it look like bark. So we actually wad our paper up, we crumple it, then we open it back up, now it looks rough, and then we tear the edges of the paper all the way around. And I take some time demonstrating this so they really understand how to do it without ripping into their animal. Once that's done, I give them white oil pastel to make the white dots all the way around the animal. Once that's done, we go ahead and surround the animal with colored dots. I have them use their crayons. Originally, I was using chalk, but a lot of my schools don't have chalk, so we use crayon now. And I would like to thank Isabel Martinez for this project. Then we review the rest of Australia, and that's it. Our third continent is South America. But first, let's review. We review continents and talk about what we've learned about the ones that we've already studied. I ask where this artwork was made. They tell me Africa. I ask them how they know. It has a large head. It's made of wood. I ask them where this was made. They tell me Australia. How do they know? Well, it has a lot of dots. Well, on what material would it be made? They tell me bark. The additional art standards for this lesson are tell which media were used in making a work of art and describe reasons for making art. The Common Core listening and speaking standards are give, restate, and follow simple two-step directions and describe people and places with relevant details, giving ideas and feelings clearly. The vocabulary is metal, silversmith, emboss, relief sculpture, icon, and portrait. This map tells us a lot about South America. See the brown running down the left side? Those are the Andes Mountains. They're very tall. And the rest of South America is green. It's got rainforests and jungles and cloud forests. There are lots of interesting animals in South America. These are llama. They live in the mountains, and the people use their wool to make blankets and clothing. The jungles are full of beautifully colored birds like these macaws. This is a striped tapir. And the jungles are full of hundreds of kinds of monkeys. Here's another one that looks completely different than the monkey we saw first. And this is a jaguar who has a beautiful coat on him. They have some amazing frogs in the rainforest. This one's blue and it's absolutely beautiful. These South American people painted themselves blue. Maybe they were inspired by the frog. The South Americans love color. And we see it in the way they decorate themselves and in the way they paint their homes. These are indigenous people. That's what we call the original people in South America, indigenous. Look how colorfully this little girl has been painted for a special occasion. And look at this little boy. Where have we seen that kind of decoration before? Right, lines and dots. From Australia. But we see something new. What do you see that's new? Exactly, we see the piercings. Here's a man wearing a lip plate. Where have we seen lip plates before? Right, Africa. Except that was a woman. These are indigenous people that live in the cities. In Bolivia, look how they dress. And we always recognize them because of their hats. We know they're from Bolivia. But look at the beautiful colors. Here's an indigenous woman standing in front of some homes. Which form are the roofs? Right, cones. How about the houses themselves? Yes, cylinders. Where have we seen houses like that before? Correct, we saw them in Africa. Here's a family who lives in the city. Gee, they look just like they would if they lived in Los Angeles or New York or, wow, just about any big city in the world, right? Let's take a look at some famous landmarks in South America. This is the huge Christ the Redeemer statue that stands over Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's kind of like our Statue of Liberty. And this is the famous Copacabana Beach, also in Brazil. This huge rock formation is called Sugar Mountain. These are the beautiful Iguazu Falls. They're huge. And these are the ruins of Machu Picchu, which are high in the Andes Mountains, where the Inca Indians lived hundreds of years ago. This is Angels Falls. It's the tallest waterfall in the whole world. This land in Argentina is called the Pampas, and this is a gaucho. That's what they call their cowboys. And he's herding cattle. This picture shows what the jungle looks like when we fly over it in a small plane. This church is in Bogota, Colombia. This is the Nitero Museum in Brazil. These buildings and fountains are in Argentina. And they look just like they're in Europe. So I want you to remember what this looks like for when we get to Europe, and you'll see the difference. And there's a reason. About 500 years ago, people from Europe came to South America, and they settled there, and they brought the way they build buildings, and they brought their languages. So in South America, they speak Spanish, and they speak Portuguese. These buildings are in the same city, but they look completely different, not European at all. But they show us how much the people of South America love color. This is another part of South America that's a long way from Argentina. It's Colombia, and they too really like beautifully colored buildings. Look at this mask. Can you tell what it's made from? It's metal. When the Europeans came, they brought their knowledge of how to work with metal, and from there, they expanded it into all kinds of art. Let's take a look at some more. These little angels are made of tin. What do you think they might use them for? Look at these picture frames. They're made of tin. When we work metal to get designs like this, we call it metal smithing. This kind of picture is called a religious icon, and you can see the metal smithing that's gone into this. This old Bible is covered with pictures both inside and out, just like church walls and windows were, to remind people of the stories, because back then almost nobody knew how to read. Look at the beautiful frame this metalsmith has made. And now it's our turn to try metalsmithing. We're going to make a picture frame too. Teachers, you can buy 5x5 squares of 36-gauge aluminum foil already cut at the art store, or you can buy cookie sheets from the 99-cent store and cut them yourself, which means that you're spending about $1 for 12 squares. You're going to need to work on a padded surface. I use felt. Padded newspaper will work. You need a backing, cut a post